Good morning. Today I'd like to share with you a story called Weaving Our Path. This is a story by Martha Dallas, who's a DRE elsewhere. Imagine with me that you're going along a trail in the woods and you come across a steep gorge with a river rushing at the bottom. There's only one way to cross. You see a bridge, and it's made of grass. What I want to know is what questions would be running through your mind as you look at that bridge of grass. Who made it? How strong is it? Can I cross it safely? Did the people who make it cross it? Do they still use it? Now, we don't have bridges made of grass a lot where we live, but many were built for hundreds of years in South America by the Inca people, and a few still exist. Here's how they did it. First, they made fresh bridges once a year. And on the day of the bridge building, everyone in the community had a special role to play in building the bridge. There were people who would go gather the grass. Then other people would take the grass and twist it into long ropes. Then people took the ropes and braided them. And then those braids were twisted by other people into cables thicker than my arm. Some people strung the cables across the gorge and tightened them. And finally, there were others who would lash the cables together to create a path for people to walk on and rails for them to hold. Each person did their part as best they could, and they relied on everyone else to do their part as well, because every one of them needed that bridge to be safe to cross whenever they needed to go to the other side of the river. I'm telling this story for two reasons. First, it reminds us how important our small part is. When it's part of something big and strong and miraculous like a bridge. I also think it's important because while our congregation isn't building a literal bridge, like a grass bridge, we are building a new future, a way toward a future that we share, our shared vision. And if I'm going to walk that way and cross that bridge, I want to walk in a way that feels sure and strong and safe, a way that I know has been built with everyone doing their best part. So, as we gather here together, let's build that way together, like a grass bridge.
Our centering words today come from Kalendasa. Look to this day, for it is life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day.
The hills are alive with the sound of music, with songs they have sung for 1,000 years. The hills fill my heart with the sound of music. My heart wants to sing every song it hears. My heart wants to beat like the wings of the birds that fly from the lake to the trees. My heart wants to sigh like a chime that flies from the church
this little writing has come across Facebook. Some of you have maybe heard it, but I figured today, you know, the last few weeks have been so kind of heavy and serious that I thought it might be fun to have things be just a little bit lighter today. So I thought this might be fun to read the diary edition of the year 2020. And this came through my Facebook feed, and then Barbara Beth shared it with our chaplain group a few weeks ago. But this is just take some time and think about the world and what we've had going on this year. And this is definitely a year for the history books. We don't know who wrote this, but it kind of has just been shared everywhere. So here we go. In January, Australia caught on fire. I don't even know if that fire was put out because we straight up almost went to war with Iran. We might actually still be almost at war with them. I don't know because Jen Aniston and Brad Pitt spoke to one another at an award show and everybody flipped out. But then there was this things happening in China. Then Prince Harry and Meghan pieced out of the royal family, and there was a whole impeachment trial, and then coronavirus showed up in the US officially, but then Kobe died and UK pieced out of the European Union. In February, Iowa messed up itself with the caucus results, and the president was acquitted, and the Speaker of the House took 10 years to rip up a speech. But then WHO decided to give this virus a name, COVID-19, which confused some really important people in charge of like our lives into thinking there were 18 other versions before it. But then Harvey Weinstein was found guilty, and Americans started asking if Corona beer was safe to drink. And everyone on Facebook became a doctor who just knew the flu like killed way more people than COVID 1 through 18. In March, it all hit the fan when Warren dropped out of the presidential race and Sanders was like Bernie or bust, but then Italy shut its whole self down, and then COVID, not 1 through 18 officially became what everyone already realized, a pandemic, and then a nationwide state of emergency was declared in the US, but it didn't really change anything, so everyone was confused or thought it was still just a flu, but then COVID not 18 was like, y'all not taking me seriously. I'm going to infect the one celebrity everyone loves, and totally infected Tom Hanks. But then the Dow took a dive on itself, and most of us still don't understand why the stock market is so important or even a thing. But then we were all introduced to Tiger King. Carol totally killed her husband, and Netflix was like, you're welcome. And we all realized there was no way we were washing our hands enough in the first place because all of our hands are now dry and gross. In April, Bernie finally busted himself out of the presidential race, but then New York City became the set of The Walking Dead, and we learned that no one has face masks, ventilators, or toilet paper, or the Swiffer wet jet liquid, but then Kim Jong-un died, but then he came back to life. Or did he? Who knows? Because then the Pentagon released videos of UFOs and nobody cared. And we were like, man, it's only April. In May, the biblical end times kicked off historical locust swarms, and then we learned of murder hornets and realized that 2020 was the start of the Hunger Games, but people forgot to let us know, but then people legit protested lockdown measures with AR-15s, and then sports events were canceled everywhere. But then people all over America finally reached a breaking point with race issues and violence. There were protests in every city, but then people forgot about the pandemic called COVID, not 1 through 18. Media struggled with how to focus on two important things at once. But then people in general struggle to focus on more than one important thing. And a dead whale was found in the middle of the Amazon rainforest after the monkeys stole COVID 1 through 19 from a lab and ran off with them. And either in May or April, no one is keeping track of time now, that a giant asteroid narrowly missed Earth. In June, science and common sense just got thrown straight out the window, and somehow wearing masks became a political thing. But then a whole lot of people realized the South was actually the most unpatriotic thing ever and actually lost the Civil War. And there are a large amount of people who feel that statues they don't even know the name of are needed for history reasons. But then everyone sort of remembered there was a pandemic, but then decided that not wearing a mask was somehow a God-given right. Still haven't found that part in the Bible or even in the Constitution, but then scientists announced they found a mysterious undiscovered mass at the center of the earth, and everyone was like, don't you dare touch it. But then everyone took a pause to realize that people actually believed Gone with the Wind was like nonfiction, but then it was also announced that there is a strange radio signal coming from somewhere in the universe that repeats itself every so many days, and everyone was like, don't you dare attempt to communicate with it. But then America reopened from the shutdown that actually wasn't even a shutdown. And so far, things have gone spectacularly. Not that great, but everyone is on Facebook arguing that masks kill because no one knows how breathing works. But then Florida was like, hold my beer and let me show you how we're number one in all things, including the not corona beer coronavirus. Trump decides now is a good time to ask the Supreme Court to shut down Obamacare, because what better time to do so than in the middle of a pandemic. But then we learned there was a massive dust cloud coming straight at us from the Sahara Desert, which is totally normal. But this is 2020, so the ghost mummy thing is most likely in that dust cloud. But then I learned of meth gators, and I'm like, this is so not my 2020 bingo card. But then we learned that the Congo's worst ever Ebola outbreak is over. And we were all like, there was an Ebola outbreak, and the worst ever. In July, aliens, Zeus, asteroids, artificial intelligence become self-aware. Thanks to whoever started this for the copy and paste. I have no idea who wrote this, and heck, I want to know. And also, why didn't I know about the whale in the Amazon? And that, people, is 2020 in a nutshell. And all of those things happened, and I did read an article about the meth gators just last week. So anyways, if something bizarre is going to happen, this is probably the year that it's going to happen. And so when I was thinking today about what to talk about, I was looking at some of my old sermon titles, and I was like, well, you know, I could talk about the art of imperfection, you know, how nothing ever goes the way that you want it to go, and we have to be okay with that anyways. I could talk about one of my old sermons, In the Blink of an Eye, where just in the blink of an eye, your normal is no longer normal and everything has changed. Or I could talk about letting go, you know, the idea that we can't hold on and that we go through grief, but grief can also be a birth. And so which one do I look at in the case of 2020? And I realized this morning, it's all three. It's all three. The reason I'm here today speaking from my couch is because the imperfection of what's going on with the internet at the church. And the reason that things change is that in a blink of an eye, all of a sudden, nothing is normal for any of us. This virus came in. We don't even have professional sports, or the professional sports that we do have now. That has everybody seen the baseball with the cutout figures of human beings? That just made my day the first time I saw those cardboard figures of people. I'm not sure if that's supposed to make the baseball players feel better. I don't know. And then we still don't know what's going to happen with our kids, you know. Will this be a whole generation of kids that life just stopped for them? You know, last spring, they went on spring break and they never came back. And some of these kids now, like in Georgia, they started school up, but I saw a headline that said there's already 160 teachers that have now are having to quarantine. And my friend Gretchen, who's the minister in Fort Collins at the UU Church in Fort Collins, I saw on her Facebook that she had sent out a little video message to her congregation saying, did you just get the last letter from the district superintendent? Okay, take a deep breath, we can do this, which makes me think that perhaps they got word that Fort Collins is not going back to school. And I think I reached out to my sister-in-law and they were going to go back, and now all of a sudden they are not going back until at least the middle of October. And so it's just, this year is the year to expect the unexpected. This is the year to hold on tightly, but as Dwayne says, sometimes then you have to let go. This is the year that we get to throw out all expectations of perfection, because nothing is perfect. Nothing is perfect. And yet within that perfection, maybe we let go of the need to be perfect. And maybe this is an opportunity that we begin to practice a little bit, just being able to go within, to ground ourselves, to be our own source of comfort and strength and power, because everything around us is just spinning. And it started spinning, well, I was going to say it started spinning in March, but if you listen to that email, it started in January. I mean, it started last year, it started years ago, but here we are. And so none of us know exactly what's going on. This week I am going to get the kids prepared to go to school, and I got an email that, you know, Book Cliff will be sending out what they actually need on like Wednesday, and school is supposed to start on Monday. So that's not normal. Normally we know what they need by June. And I'm also preparing Danny and Nathaniel. I'm getting their rooms ready, because my assumption is that at some point, without warning, they're going to just start learning from home. And so it's a sort of a both and, hold on, let go, do the best that you can, and don't try to be perfect. And just know that in the blink of an eye, everything changes. And then we adapt and we create a new normal, and then everything changes again. And in the middle of that, we take the time to let go of it being perfect, to really remember what is truly important, and that is the relationships, the friendships, the love, the community, the imperfection within the perfection. And then we come together like this on Sunday mornings, and we get to see everybody's lovely faces, with which Arlita would love. Everybody has their own square with their very own name tag. Nobody is missing a name tag today. So Arlita, this is for you. And so what I want to do today is just maybe open it up for us to have a conversation about what is it in the year 2020 that you have decided you're going to hold on to, and what is it in the year 2020 that you have decided that you're willing to let go of. And I just kind of want us to be together this morning in an imperfect community, just kind of being real and sharing how we're doing with each other. So I'm going to go ahead and allow us to unmute ourselves, and we'll just kind of talk about that for a few minutes.